Hi, I am Nasrin Aghamohammadi, a senior lecturer here at University of Malaya. My research area is in environmental engineering. It is a pleasure for me to talk about engineering in public health. We hear about climate changes and water crisis daily basis in media. In this subject, you are going to learn about water supply in rural and urban area. The science behind of this will help you to understand how the water supply works. We will look at a water supply in rural area and how water supply works in cities and towns. I will help you to understand method of purification of waters as well as method of chlorination and quality test. Let's look at the water resources users globally. Water resources are sources of water that are potentially useful. Use of water include agricultural, industrial, household, recreational, and environmental activities. The majority of human uses requires fresh water. 97% of the water on the earth is salt water and only 3% is fresh water. Slightly over 2/3 of this frozen is glacier and polar ice caps. The remaining unfrozen fresh water is found mainly as groundwater, with only a small fraction present above ground or in the air. The area have a sufficient high statistic water level. You can install a shallow well, and shallow wells can only draw from a depth of 20 feet or less, and seldom exceeded to 15 meters in depth. While the deep wells constructed by drilling and diameters are quite varied, and the depth are from the 50 to 1,000 meters. Free from organic impurities, and they are normally out of any turbidities. An artesian well is a pumpless water source that uses pipe to allow underground water that is under pressure to rise the surface. I'm going to show you another method for water supply apart from well, which is called gravity feed pipe water supply. River water on high ground is piped to the village for use in rural areas. Water from heap pond flows into the sedimentation tank, and after that will be stored in a storage tank and will distribute into the individual houses. In this case, treatment is seldom needed except for simple chlorination. The water quality is usually good, and there is 24 hours continuous supply. Its maintenance is quite simple, cheap, and very economic. This type of supply is therefore one of the best, but it is not reliable in terms of sources, especially during the dry spell. It should be protected with a watertight tank and system of collection pipes. The other water supply method in rural area is considered as a pumped piped water supply. Water from river, pond, or wells in low places can be lifted up by mechanical pumps to the village in highland for their consumption. Such system involves high cost of operation and maintenance, which usually cannot be afforded by people who have a very low income, but it is from the deep well, it is a sanitary. Water in the lowland can be pumped by a hydraulic ramp to high places storage tank for use. A good ramp will pump water for as long as some 50 years without any fuel or electricity and with very little maintenance. As a water drop is needed for ramp operation and usually not available unless a dam is created. It makes the initial cost of ramp water supply, and it is expensive. A rainwater supply for individual dwelling may be considered where pipe water is not available, where the quantity of groundwater is inadequate, or the quality is objectionable. Rainwater from roof is collected in roof gutters and directed via rainwater downpipe into one or more water cisterns or tanks for storage. In this slide, I'm going to explain about water supply in cities and towns. So how does your city supply water to you? A great deal of engineering goes into supplying our water needs. Cities have to have a means of storing a tremendous amount of water so it is available when we need it. Probably somewhere near you, a river was dammed to form up the reservoir. This reservoir can be very large, or they may cover just a few acres. Sometimes a well is dug to supply groundwater to a storage reservoir. Closer to your home might be a water tower, which will always be built on a high ground. Since natural waters are often polluted to greater or lesser extent, they must be purified to make them fit for human consumption or for another desired purpose. Water for drinking must be made safe by removal of the pathogenic organism and by the dangerous chemicals. It should be also made attractive to the consumer by the removal of the suspended matters, colors, or any substances producing taste or colors. Water may be purified on a small scale by following methods of distillation, boiling, filters, or uses of chemicals. In this slide, I'm going to talk about the principle of conventional treatment process. During the process of screening and stirring, sticks and other floating objects such as leaves, small fish will be removed, which is called primary sedimentation. Next process is aeration, storage tanks, and in this method, the odor or taste will be diminished due to aeration and oxidization after process of the coagulation or flocculation using suitable coagulants such as like alum or aluminum sulfate, and the fine suspended material will be settled as well as turbidity. By this method, the bacteria also will be removed. The next process is sedimentation to decrease the finer particle material and remaining the coagulant through this process by filtration. Then it goes to the sterilization and disinfection using chlorine or other chemical substances. Certain chemical will changes to use this in this process of coagulant. They call it ferrous sulfate or ferric sulfate, and it helps to impurify the suspended impurity within 24 hours. And also the bacteria will be removed by clarification and using the sedimentation during the storage tank. Water chlorination is a process of adding the chlorine or hypochlorite to the water. This method is used to kill certain bacteria and other microbes in tap water, as chlorine is highly toxic. In particular, chlorination is used to prevent the spread of the waterborne diseases such as cholera, dysentery, jaundice, typhoid, and etc. Chlorination is the treatment of the drinking water with the chloramine disinfectant. The chlorine and a small amount of ammonia will be added in the water to have some kind of reaction together for a long-lasting chlorination. A simple chlorination will be added to the water is one of the methods. Another method is chloramine. The third one is superchlorination, which is following by using another chemicals to remove the agent such as sulfur dioxide or sodium thisulfide. And at the end method is a break point chlorination, which has a free residual chlorination to the water for longer lasting of the treatment and disinfection. This method is widely used in the most of urban water treatment plants. Drinking water quality surveillance objectives are to raise the standards of health of people by ensuring the safety and acceptability of the drinking water provided to the consumer. Alternative methods for water disinfection is ozone, chloramine, home filtration, and UV radiation. In this topic, we conclude the first part of the lecture, which is an introduction to the water supply in both rural and urban areas, process of water supply in city and town, and how to treat the water in treatment plant, and various methods of the chlorination and disinfection, and water treatment quality test, and as well as drinking water quality surveillance.